Hey there! Welcome to the Distracted Librarians podcast. We're your friendly neighborhood bookworms with a penchant for all things pop culture.
Picture this as our digital campfire, where we dive into our latest obsessions, analyze our favorite distractions, and rediscover the joy of reading.
Whether you're a media enthusiast, a book lover, or just need a break from the daily grind, you've come to the right spot.
So kick back, relax, and get delightfully distracted with us.
Hey everybody! On today's episode of the Distracted Librarians, we are going to talk about books we wish were movies or TV shows. So, I am Nicole.
I'm Amanda.
I'm Killian.
And I'm Drew.
All right, how many times have you finished a book and thought this would be incredible on screen?
Yes.
So many.
Like, I don't know if we can count all those times, but
One of my
yes.
notes is an author, and she has over 30 books. So
All of them?
Wow.
All of them deserve shows.
I would take all of them.
Wow.
Oh my goodness. Well, so today we're going to talk about 3-ish books that we each think should be turned into a movie or television show. So I hope if there's anybody really important in the movie industry out there listening, that they will take note.
We are the market.
Absolutely. Can I go first?
Yeah, go
Please.
first.
Okay.
She's
So,
chomping at the bit.
I'm not going to start with the one that has 30 books. That's for later. But this is my current. If I think about it too hard, it infuriates me too much because this started to be made into a show, and then they canceled it before it got to the best parts.
No.
I will never get over Shadow and Bone being canceled, not for the Shadow and Bone storyline, but for the Six of Crows storylines we never got. Because I adore that book with every fiber of my being. Talking about audiobooks, like in another episode, I should have talked about Six of Crows. But I am obsessed with these characters, and they brought them into the start of Shadow and Bone, which was like, cool, I get to see these characters I love in this storyline that I'm a little more meh about. But then I didn't get the good parts.
Oh, man.
And if I think about it too hard, I am simply filled with rage that we never got it. Drew understands. He's
I
heard
also
this.
love those books, but no, I didn't watch the show. And I think I didn't watch the show because everyone I talked to was like, oh, by the way, it got canceled, so what are you going to do? So I guess they'll live in my head unless you guys tell me otherwise that I should watch it.
It's the reversal of it that is so painful. Because for a minute there, they were talking about the show having the viewership that would merit them splitting the shows and just giving Six of Crows its own thing.
Which would have been amazing.
Now that the characters are established.
Yeah.
They were talking about how, like, now that season 3 of Shadow and Bone would have been beyond the books of Shadow and Bone, but they wanted to keep the characters.
Okay.
So they were starting to write their own for those characters, and mixing in the Six of Crows stuff would have split everything too much, so they were going to make them both their own show, and then all of a sudden canceled everything.
Gotcha. Could we talk a little bit briefly about what the series is about, just so that our audience members can...
Sure.
Can you summarize it slightly?
Oh boy, can I do this at the drop of a hat?
It's a lot.
We're gonna try.
Yeah.
So
I believe in you.
For Six or for Shadow? Or for both?
Well, okay, so the show itself is a mingling of both, right?
Yes. If you
Both.
want the Shadow and Bone backstory, go watch the show. It exists.
There you go.
Six of Crows is a YA fantasy heist novel that is these 6 misfits with wild backstories each, and you get all of their backstories, and we get some of that in the Shadow and Bone show, who are brought together by the ringleader, who one of my cats is named after, and if that tells you how I feel about this book, my cats are both named after characters. But they are brought together to pull off this basically impossible heist. And it is their whole process of doing that, what each of them gets out of it, the fact that they don't go into this all being like on board with everyone else being involved. And just the truly miraculous planning and execution of this heist that is, it's so well done. It's so good. And I don't always see like the cinematography of a book as I'm reading it or even thinking about it after when I'm like, yes, this should be a movie or TV show.
Sure.
This one I can.
Yeah, it's pretty, because there's a lot of adventure, and
Yeah.
the character building is really good, too.
And this whole world is based in Russian folklore and fairy tale traditions that is so different from a lot of very more like fully European medieval vibes.
Sure.
So it also just has a whole different feel to it.
Mm-hmm.
And I understand that some of that high fantasy element is why it is harder to make a show or a movie of.
Oh, sure.
Because
Yeah, they have to have so many special effects. And
budgeting
everything.
for all of that is wild.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But they started it.
Yeah.
They
yeah.
promised you.
Yes, I've been betrayed. And I will forever feel betrayed by Netflix.
Well, maybe someday somebody will get a bee in their bonnet to do it right. It could be you, Killian.
Ooh.
I'm not a filmmaker. But if anyone out there is,
Get at me.
please.
All right. Anybody else?
So a book that probably the top one that I would really love to see as a movie or a limited TV series is Morning Star by Karl Ove Knausgaard.
Okay.
And I actually recommend this book for you, Nicole.
Okay. I'm
it's
writing
horror,
it down. Love that.
supernatural. It is really long, so I think it's intimidating, but I
have no problem with that.
I was captivated for all 666 pages.
Oh, seriously?
Incredible.
No way. This is the book for
Amazing.
me. I just found that book. I love it.
So you feel so uncomfortable reading this. And the premise is that you get vignettes into the lives of, we'll say, 8 people, 10 people.
Okay.
And they're all experiencing the same time in the same place. And what happens is, the book is titled Morning Star, and there's this huge star that sort of ascends or descends closer to Earth. It is lighting up the sky during the day, during the night. Super creepy. People are like, what is this, like, astrological event? And then weird things start happening.
Mm-hmm.
And some of them are in the natural world. Some of them veer on, this is totally impossible. This is supernatural. Some of them are just, these people are acting strangely. And everything throughout it is just so creepy. And he's sort of like this master of making you feel uncomfortable and questioning what's going on. Is it a natural phenomenon, spiritual phenomenon, something in the water? What is it? And it's very much in the vein of A24 films. If I was going to pick someone, it'd be like, to make this, it'd be like Ari Aster, who did Hereditary and Midsommar. And he also, I just found out, was the executive producer of Rumors. Did anyone see Rumors or hear about that?
Mm-mm.
Okay.
I'm aware of it because I bought it for the library, but no, I've not watched it.
Okay. Rumors is for a specific person. It's not for everyone. I wouldn't be widely recommending it to people at the library. But I loved the movie. It's super weird. And so, like, knowing that he did that movie or had a hand in it as well, I was like, you are the right person for this. But I also think it would have a ton of really interesting visuals with this eerie star lighting up the night sky.
Sure. That sounds awesome.
Yeah. So he is, I believe, Swedish.
And I love that too. The Swedes know their horror.
No, totally. Totally. It is like right in that same vein of what was the vampire
Let the Right
movie?
One In.
Yes.
Yeah.
Let the Right One In is so good. So that's still same like eeriness, the
Yeah.
starkness of
Very cool.
the landscape.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very nice. I am going to talk really quickly about a book that I just read. I got the advanced reader copy for this, and it is now out, so I can talk about it. It is written by Stephen Graham Jones, and it is called Buffalo Hunter Hunter. Stephen Graham Jones is the indigenous Stephen King.
Yeah.
He writes horror and supernatural stuff in such a way that, like, I am just so engaged and I love everything, all of it. He usually has indigenous characters, so that's really kind of a nice and interesting take on things. He also wrote Only Good Indians, and there are a couple others that he had written as well. Anyway, so I was very excited when I saw that he had a new book coming out, and I was like, I got to get this advanced reader copy. It is like so many things that I love because it's a vampire novel. And it's interesting because, let me just read the synopsis to you guys, and you can tell me what you think.
Okay.
A diary written in 1912 by a Lutheran pastor is discovered within a wall. What it unveils is a slow massacre, a chain of events that go back to 217 Blackfeet dead in the snow. Told in transcribed interviews by a Blackfeet named Goodstab, who shares the narrative of his peculiar life over a series of confessional visits. Now, that synopsis says nothing about vampires, but this particular Blackfeet that is talking to this pastor is a vampire. And he goes into great depth of how he became a vampire and what the things that he has done over the course of the couple hundred years of life that he's lived. And it is just haunting. Because, like, we know vampires. We've got the Eastern European vampires coming out of the wazoo, but have we ever had an indigenous vampire before?
Not that I've heard of.
And this indigenous vampire is not happy about the white man. So it is really, really wonderful. And I think as a movie or a show would just be fantastically beautiful. So that's my first one.
I'm interested.
I will do what I thought I would never be the one to do and say, let's step away from fantasy for a second.
No.
Just for a second, because most of mine are. But the one I want the most is Yellowface, R.F. Kuang.
Oh, okay.
I just think in the same vein as, like, the apple cider vinegar wellness guru show that came out on Netflix recently, their whole Inventing Anna bit a little bit before, would fit so well in that, like, genre of limited release show where, like, you get this character that you know from the start is the problem, and all of the ridiculous things that she does to try and get out from under this massive problem that she's gotten herself into with her lies and stacking everything on top of each other and waiting for the last domino to fall. I think it would be so fun to see portrayed like that. For people who don't know what it is, Yellowface is a book about an author who is struggling to get her footing in the world and is upset at at what she sees as the amount of opportunities that minorities or own voice speakers get. So when her friend Athena dies, I think, eating birthday cake or something. This is in the first, like, 2 chapters. I'm not spoiling anything. She decides to, instead of report this death to the police, just go and steal her manuscript for her next book, which is about, like, one of the Chinese wars. Like, this girl has been researching this book for years and years, and finish it on her own and make her own tweaks and publish it as her own.
Whoa.
And this is this little white girl who has no tie to this story And it becomes this massive phenomenon of, how did you get the idea for this book? What was your research process like? What's your personal tie to this? And she's just digging herself in deeper, lie after lie, because she can't say the truth.
Wow.
And it's such an interesting book of like knowing that you are rooting against her and kind of waiting for how hilarious the downfall is, and I think that'd be done so well in a short and limited edition TV show.
Nice. I love that. All right, do we have any more? I know we have more.
I have a 30-book list from one author.
30-book list.
Do it.
I'm not going to list all the books.
In order.
Absolutely not. There's two different worlds. Which world? Tamora Pierce has been one of my favorite authors since I was in middle school. And I have recently been looking at going back and rereading everything. A lot of her books are things that I fall asleep listening to. I hear parts of them regularly, but I want to go back and actually read them through and like fully process them to see if they stand up, because the first ones were written before I was born. Mm-hmm. Like, this is a long-standing career of writing, but she's written basically two main universes. You have the Tortall universe and the Emelon universe. And they are some different vibes, different takes on magic and fantasy and storytelling. And I just want to be able to be more immersed in those worlds than I already am, having read this plethora of books about them. Mm-hmm. So her first series was The Song of the Lioness Quartet, with Alana the Lioness, who is training to be a knight, but she has to disguise herself as a boy to do it. So she basically rebuilds herself as her twin brother instead of twin sister, and he goes off to study magic, and she goes to become a knight. And it's her going through the training and process to become a knight, and then being a knight throughout the quartet. And it's so good. It's one of the earliest books that I know of that really did a good job of portraying like what puberty is like for girls, and like it talks about when she first starts bleeding and things like that, and it's things that are really important to have in children's books that you didn't really see a lot of,
Right.
And to see it in fantasy, because it also gets left out of fantasy. But then it went from that series into a series about a girl who has magic to speak with animals, and you see callbacks to Alana and the characters from the first series. And then it goes into another series about another girl who's trained to be a knight, but now she doesn't have to hide the way Alana did. And her process and how that's different from Alana, and how she's different from Alana, because they are very different characters. And then there's a series that is one of my favorites by Tamora Pierce, is the Daughter of the Lioness series, where Alana's teenage daughter is now stepping out into the world and taking her own place in the world in a way that her parents don't want her to be. And so there's another series that then calls back to an ancestor of Alana's husband and things like that. It's a huge world that's all interconnected, and you see cameos throughout it. So I really just want a long-standing TV show that does all of that. And I want to see then an Emelon one as well, with the great takes on magic being, innate versus studied, and these 4 kids who have this innate magic that wasn't recognized until they were just shy of being teenagers, and how that affects their lives. And I'm just again, it's high fantasy. It's so expensive. It's so hard to do. I get it. These have been around for a while. Someone just do it. And I am not the only one who has put out a call to make Tamora Pierce books into movies or books.
Well,
I have seen
I think the
conversations.
technology is there to pull off some of these fantasy things now.
Absolutely.
Just saying. It's not like it used to be. So, yeah.
So, yeah, that is my, plea number 2 to the world of movies and TV. Please just give me, honestly, in general, more high fantasy TV and movies.
I love that.
It's just what I want.
The other 2 things that I have are both fantasy too. So,
I have a fantasy one. Maybe I'll save it or skip it, because that is a common theme. But one that is not, because one of the other reasons I want to see something done as a movie or TV show is that it's like something that's really highly visual. And this one is Pattern Recognition by William Gibson. And he takes you through London, Moscow, and Tokyo. So I think that would be really interesting visually, but I think that it's a slightly different universe. It's like the universe that we know, but like I know at one point I read that it's as if September 11th never happened. So like there are world events that have unfolded slightly different. So I think that you could build the world to be visually really interesting, and it could be sort of somewhere in the recent past or recent future, depending. Because of William Gibson's sort of style of sci-fi, I sort of see it as being this like Blade Runner type of thing. Not where there's like high technology, but again, just like Earth, but just different. So anyway, I think that someone who's brilliant could do really cool things with it. But the themes in it, I think, are really applicable. This was written in the 1990s, and you have your main character, who is this woman who is highly sensitive to corporate logos and advertisements. So she works as a consultant to be like, is this a good logo? Does this advertising campaign work? And her father is a spy. So you get these impressions that maybe someone's following her, and she's like sort of in an underground world. And where it intersects in a way that's really was predictive was the idea that marketing could be done in a guerrilla type of way. And marketing could sort of change the zeitgeist of societies. Just how spycraft sort of could change the course of world events. And this was before influencer culture. And so now when I look at it, I'm like, oh, like this was very much predicting influencer culture.
That's crazy.
And they give examples of like someone goes to bars strategically, accidentally bumps into the person next to them, and it was like, oh, strikes up a conversation. Have you tried this beer or something? So like this way of like, we're going to do direct marketing in a sort of
organic
and clandestine way. Which is what we're experiencing a lot. And influencer culture has sort of changed the zeitgeist of society, as well as like sort of the course of world events.
Oh, for sure.
So I think that if someone did this and took it in a way that highlighted the hugely influential ways that marketing that has on people in general, I think it'd be super cool.
That's really interesting.
I recommend the book, though, obviously.
Totally. Another book that I would love to see on film would be Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies by Heather Fawcett. This is a series of books. There's 3 now. And I absolutely fell in love with these books. They have like a slight romantic element to them, but I think my favorite part is the character Emily Wilde. She is kind of a frumpy, scholarly type of person. She isn't the most, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, some of the cultural norms don't really affect her in the same way. So she blurts things out at people that maybe she shouldn't say. But she happens to be the foremost expert on the study of fairies. So she is constantly writing a book And that's kind of like the whole gist around these books, is that this is the book that she's writing, and they are done in kind of a journal sort of way. So the first one is her doing her encyclopedia of fairies. And she goes on these crazy adventures with her dog Shadow, who's not actually just a regular dog. He's something else.
Of course.
But also, she has this rival who is Wendell Bamblebee, who comes along with her, much to her chagrin. And there are these really cute sort of romantic things that happen between this very handsome Professor Bamblebee and this other professor that knows the folk better than anybody, but doesn't know people very well. I think it'd be really cute.
Wendell Bamblebee is Bamblebee.
Bamblebee
is an incredible name.
Isn't it great?
Truly. Yes.
So another one that I would love to see is called How You Say I Do by Tal Bauer. It is a romance. So a guy who is going to a resort for his brother's wedding. I don't remember, one of the Caribbean islands, is getting on the plane and waiting in the airport for his plane, and sees someone just sobbing into their whiskey at the bar in the airport, and everyone is giving him like the widest berth and just letting him exist there. And Wyatt instead is like, no, I'm gonna talk to this person, see if they're okay. They end up getting on the same flight. He was just left by his fiancée at the altar, and is now going on his honeymoon solo, and is not having a good time with it.
I guess not.
So the book separates itself into really good sections. It starts, at the resort, and their sort of 1 week courtship where neither of them are treating it as real life, and then real life comes back into it. One is from New York, the other is from Texas. And they initially decide they don't want anything to do with it, but they can't seem to get that person off their mind. Romance ensues, of course. But I just think the different areas that the story takes place in, the resort, Manhattan, a ranch in Texas, would be really cinematic and interesting with each other. It's such a good story, and I need it. I just need it in front of my eyes in this moment.
Awesome. I love that. All right. Does anyone have to have a third? No? I will share a third just so that I can say that we did 3-ish.
Bet.
Because we said 3-ish. I would like to see Impossible Creatures. It's a children's book by Catherine Rundell on film, because I can picture how beautiful everything about this book is. It is a kids fiction book about a boy named Christopher who saves a drowning baby griffin. Okay, so here we are, right from the get-go. Something fantastic happens. And it happens very close to this. He's going to stay with his grandfather for the summer, and his grandfather keeps saying, "Don't go up the hill." And you know what happens when your grandfather tells you don't go up the hill. Somebody's going up the hill. He went up the hill, and there's a lake there, and there's this baby griffin that's drowning. And he had never seen something so fantastic in his entire life. Hence the Impossible Creatures. So he ends up basically going on this adventure into this other world through the lake. He goes to this other place where all of the fantastic impossible creatures live. So there's unicorns and dragons and anything you could possibly think of in this other place. And he is helping the chosen one, which is this scrappy little girl that happens to be the owner of the griffin. And everything about the magic of this place is dying, and nobody can figure out what's going on. And somehow Mal, the girl, is intricately tied into the health of this entire world. So there's adventure, There's a berserker, which I love. Throw me all the berserkers of the world. There is a woman who only, sails the seas and knows everything about these very amazing aquatic creatures. It just sounds like it would be a treat for the eyes.
Mm-hmm.
I have one more.
You have one more.
Because
Okay.
I need Drew's take on this.
All right, let's do
because
it.
it just came into my mind, and I simply need to.
I'm in.
Love at Second Sight, in the style of a 2000s teen movie.
Immediately, yes.
Love at Second Sight is about a boy starting his sophomore year of high school in a world where supernatural creatures are just part of life.
Okay.
There's like werewolves and psychics and witches and all these different things.
And they all just go to the school together. It's
Of course,
Yeah.
as they would.
But he is not supernatural. And his parents are mad that he's going to school with his best friend for the first time in years because they got redistricted back into the same district or the same school. And his best friend is a witch.
Okay.
So first day of school, his best friend's like, hey, like, yes, this is great, but I also have these responsibilities with being a witch. So I got to deal with those. So maybe you should also make some new friends too, which is just what you want to hear from your best friend. And then he ends up caught in the middle of this fight when he kind of storms away from his friend and gets knocked down and has this vision of this girl he doesn't know being killed, and he's seeing this from the perspective of the person killing her.
Wow.
And he realizes he has this very rare type of supernatural called a clairvoyant, and now suddenly all of the supernatural factions want him as an ally.
Okay.
But it's like, okay, do you want to be my friend? Do you just want me to ally with your faction? All of this stuff. And he also has this whole mystery to solve. And I
Okay.
just think, like, in the tradition of early 2000s teen movies, it would be so good.
Nice. I love that.
But I'm also obsessed with this book. I messaged Drew screaming about it while I was reading it. So that's why it needed to be
Yes.
run by Drew in this moment.
No, it would be perfect for it too, because the pacing of the book is opening itself up to be sectioned into Act 1, Act 2, Act 3 really well.
Okay.
Of like the discovery of the power, the forming of the like unlikely friend group around which they're trying to like amateur solve the mystery, but also trying to integrate Cam into the world, and then Act 3 dealing with the mystery all of a sudden. It would set itself up real well for it.
Awesome. That sounds super cool. All right, everybody, thank you for listening, and we will see you next time. Thank you for joining us for this episode of Distracted Librarians.
Many thanks to BCTV for their support in recording, editing, and releasing this podcast, and to the Friends of the Library for sponsoring closed captioning on every episode.
If you have any questions or suggestions, feel free to reach out to us at distracted@btpl.org.
Until then, keep those pages turning and those screens lighting up. We'll catch you in the next episode.
The views and opinions expressed in the Distracted Librarians podcast do not necessarily reflect those of Bloomfield Township Public Library, Bloomfield Community Television, the Birmingham Area Cable Board, or its producers or production staff.